As a renowned Islamic scholar, transformational speaker, teacher, and mentor, Abdul Fattah Adeyemi has inspired countless lives with his insightful lectures and compassionate guidance. Connect with a community of like-minded individuals seeking knowledge and achieving greatness.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. My name is Abdul Fattah Adeyemi. We are all welcome to the lecture series on the platform of Bainakum Family Counseling Center. The topic of discussion is the burdens of life. The burdens of life. The weight that we carry. The burdens that we carry in life. So, the burdens of life. We want to look at it very deeply, very philosophically. We draw examples from our various lives. And we draw examples from nature, from what we have around in the cosmos, in the natural world, so that we can better understand what these burdens mean and how we should reflect on the aspect of burdens that we carry in life. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala normally says that La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah will not impose on anyone except what they can bear. And Allah also do say La yukallifullahu nafsan illa ma ataha. Allahu Akbar. Nobody will be burdened except with what he has been given already. Meaning that Allah will not burden you with what He has not given you. If you are going to have a test or a trial or a load to carry, it's going to be from among the things He has given you the capacity to carry. In other words, we are in this world and we need to be ready to carry our burdens. The human creature is born into a world that he didn't choose. We didn't choose to come here. We were forced or compelled, or let's say we were honored to come here, because being alive at all is an opportunity. It's a privilege that we were given even when we were not qualified. It is also a world where it is more like a stage for which we never were given a script. We are here to act. We don't know the movie. We don't know the drama. We don't know what the script is like. But we are meant to discover this script every day of our lives. So this is the first burden, the burden of existence itself. Being alive on its own is a responsibility. It's a burden. From the first gasp of air when we were born, which is both a miracle and a struggle, we are conscripted into a life of carrying things, carrying this and carrying that. We are like the philosophical Sisyphus that was condemned by the mere fact of our consciousness to push a stone up a mountain only to watch it roll down again and again and again. That one of Sisyphus is a mythology of somebody who was condemned to rolling a stone up the mountain, and then he will leave the stone will roll down the mountain, it will come down again, roll it up again with all the strength and energy he has. He will manage to roll it up the mountain, and then he will drop it there again, he will leave it there again, it will roll down again. So he kept doing that over and over and over again. The question is, what constitutes this stone? It's a conglomerate of 1,000 smaller burdens in our own lives. There's the weight of time, the relentless forward marching force that makes nostalgia a sweet agony and makes the future a landscape of anxiety. We are burdened by the memory of what was, and we're also burdened by the anticipation of what might be, sometimes at the expense of the present moment, which itself slips through our fingers like sand. We don't have any control even over the present itself. So time is a burden on its own. Some people are being burdened by some memories they cannot wish away. Some people are carrying the burden of things that have happened in the past. They cannot wash it off their brains. Sometimes some people wish some things can just be deleted from their head. They wish there are some things they should not even remember again. They wish that some things they have passed through in life should be removed from the slate of their brains that have just engraved everything inside their brain, not to be washed away, not to be wished away. Even if you close your eyes, you will still remember. Some of these memories, they stick to our head like tar. They stick to our head as if somebody poured super glue in our brains when these things were happening. So they get set and they refuse to go away. This is the burden of memory that some people are carrying. And like I said, some people are carrying the burden of anticipation of what is going to be that has not become, or what it might be like, what their lives might be like, what's going to happen to them, and how is their life going to play out eventually. Anticipation, like a woman that is pregnant, she is carrying a burden, anticipating when this burden will be matured enough to be delivered. And that's why when a woman gives birth, we say she has delivered a baby. We didn't want to say a burden. She has delivered. But this anticipation can be very paralyzing, because you are thinking of what is coming to be, what it might be that you are not sure of. This can be very heavy on our hearts. And of course, the present moment is there. We are carrying some things on our shoulders. Some people carry theirs on their head. Some people, they don't know, they can't even see this burden, but they are suffering under the heavy weight of an invisible burden that they carry, or that is carried on them, or that is dumped on them. Allahu Akbar. So there's also this weight of choice. We stand at a crossroads 1,000 times a day, each path leading to a different version of a world, a different version of ourselves. We have to choose to say yes or no, and with every yes, there's a chorus silence of no's. This freedom is not a liberation, but a terrifying responsibility, the freedom to choose. And that is part of the amana that Allah has revealed on humankind, the amana that Allah gave to us. Allah says, I give this amana to the heavens, to the mountains, and they all refused. But وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانِ, it's only human beings that carry this burden. إِنَّهُ كَانَ ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا, indeed he had been unjust to himself and is so ignorant. What does that mean? Allah has given us this burden of choice, ability to choose between what is good or bad. You will think it's such a blessing to have that ability, but it is much more of a burden, because every choice you make is going to be used against you. Every choice you make, every step you take is going to work for you or against you. You don't know which is right. You don't know the right choice. And then you must use every wisdom you have, everything about you, every fiber in your body, every drop of blood in your system. You have to use it in order to ensure that you make the right choices. And it's a matter of life or death sometimes, the kind of choices we have to make. It's a matter of determining what your future is going to be like from some of the choices that we make. There are vehicles on the ground. You want to travel and you want to choose which one to travel with, and you are not sure which of them will not have accident on the way. Now you know it's a matter of life and death. Incidentally, we are the architects of our own prisons. We are the artists of our own regrets. Forever we'll keep wondering about the roads that are not taken. Sometimes we regret that we didn't take a particular path in life, and sometimes we regret the very one that we have chosen. Sometimes you even remember, why did you choose to study what you studied in school? Maybe if you have studied something else, life would have been much better for you. And that is part of the burden of our own agency. That is part of the weight that we carry, the choices that we had to make, and the fact that we don't have everything that is needed for us to make the right choices in life, including the choice of who we marry. if you are married, and then the choices of who you are supposed to marry if you are yet to get married. These choices, they are very heavy burdens on us because we don't know, we can't know any better than whatever Allah has made us to know. And Allah, most of the time, He will just be looking at you, He won't tell you anything. You go ahead and make the choice by yourself. And perhaps the heaviest of all is the weight of meaning. The heavy weight of meaning. We are the kind of animals that ask why. In a universe that often answers with a silent, cold indifference, we are tasked with building our own buildings of significance. We are tasked with building our own lives towards significance. We are burdened, and we burden ourselves with the quest for purpose, the quest for love, the quest for legacy. Who am I going to leave behind? What am I going to leave behind? The quest for truth, knowing all the while that these are fragile constructions against the vast world that we have. This world doesn't care what you decide to do. We seek light, all the while conscious of the abyss that we have beyond us. Yet, here lies the most profound paradox of the human condition. It is precisely these burdens that give us our shape. It is these burdens that give us our strength. And it's this burden that give us our dignity eventually. The burden of not knowing what to choose. The burden of time. The weight of responsibilities. These are the same things that make us to be who we are. If you had no burden to carry, then we will not know what to call you. If you had no burden to carry, then we will not know whether you are strong or not. If you have no burden to carry, then you will be bereft of your own dignity as a human being. Perhaps it's these same burdens that give us identity and meaning. It is because people see us with these burdens, that's how they know how to address us, and that's how they know how to honor us, and that's how they know how to respect us, and that's how they know what exactly we are useful for and what exactly is the purpose of our existence. If we didn't have the burden as leaders, nobody would call us leaders. If you didn't have the burden as a husband, nobody would call you a husband. If you didn't have the burden as a wife, nobody would call you a wife. If you didn't have burden of a medical doctor, nobody will come to seek your medical aid. If you didn't have the burden of an engineer, nobody will ask you to construct a bridge. So you get to see that it's this burden that actually makes us who we are. The muscle is strengthened by the resistance. The spirit is forged in the furnace of adversity. Without the weight of time, there will be no preciousness to a moment. There will be no beauty in the fading flower. Without the weight of time, we will not address you as an elderly person. We will not respect you by virtue of your experiences over the ages. And without the agony of choice, there will be no morality, no virtue in selecting kindness over cruelty. There will be no narrative to our lives whatsoever. Without the struggle for meaning, our lives will be mere biological events, empty of poetry, empty of art, bereft of love and courage. Without that struggle for meaning, then there's no love, there's no courage, there's no effort. We'll just be existing, eating, drinking, sleeping, waking up, repeat. That's all our lives will just be like. But because of this struggle for meaning, we want to run up and down, we want to run helter and skelter, we want to go here and there, just to ensure that there's meaning to our existence apart from the biological things that happen to us. So we do not seek to pull down the stone. We do not seek to remove the burdens. This is not our purpose. Our purpose is to find a way to love the push. Allahu Akbar. Our purpose is to find a way to romance the burdens on our head. Our purpose is to find a way to love the responsibilities that we carry, to find the rhythm in the strain, to carve a small mark of defiance on the rock itself, to turn the burden into a testament. The burden of life is not a curse to be escaped, but a responsibility to be borne. And in the bearing, we discover not only the weight of the world, but also the strength of our own shoulders. We discover that the struggle itself is enough to fill a man's heart. We must imagine that Sisyphus example we gave earlier on. We must imagine him to be happy, because in the end, the burden is not separate from the journey. It is the journey itself, and it is all that we have. The burden itself is the purpose of our existence. That is the amana that Allah has given to us. As Muslims, you have the burden of ibadah. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah says, I have not created mankind and jinn kind except so that they may worship me. So that ibadah itself is your own burden. You have to carry it, you have to bear it, you have to romance with it, and you have to enjoy it after a while. You cannot put it down, just like you cannot finish making salat. You cannot complete ibadah. Every day of your life, you have to make this ibadah from hour to hour. 5 times every day, you observe the compulsory salat. This is not a burden. This is a responsibility. This is the amana, and this is why we are here. So you don't complain about such a burden. You don't complain about such a curiosity. You carry it with pride. You carry it with honor. And then you are so honored by Allah that Allah has made you to be a Muslim, to be a believer, to be a worshipper of Himself. That is the nature of the burden of existence itself. Is it not a curious thing that in the sharing of our heaviest thoughts, you even feel lighter? Now you have to understand how to carry this weight that we are talking about. To articulate the weight of existence is to take a measure of it, to hold it in our hands and examine it, rather than simply being crushed beneath its vague, looming presence. In giving voice to the burden, we perform an act of alchemy. We transmute silent anguish into shared contemplation, and in doing so, each of us will carry a little less alone. And I'm going to explain this to us as we move along. But let me quickly illustrate it with salat. If you pray in congregation, you get more reward. The burden of extra focus has been lifted away from you, carried by the imam, and at the same time shared by the ma'mun, by those who pray behind the imam. The imam recites the Fatiha aloud. All you have to do is to say Ameen after he finishes with Wala Dolin. The imam has carried some of your burdens for you. And that's the same way as humans. We got to understand how to share burdens, and it becomes lighter at the end of it all. And that's why if you have a problem, for example, you share with somebody, you see you feel lighter in your heart. That's just an example of how to share burdens of life. But let's continue now. This perhaps is the most beautiful answer to the burdens we are talking about. Community. That is one word. Community. Community is one of the cheat codes of carrying the burdens of life. The shared glance that says, I too know the weight of my own stone. The conversation that reminds us that the mountain we climb is the same mountain all humanity ascends. Each of us with a unique rock, but on the same path. We are all carrying stones. We are all carrying burdens. And everybody is carrying their own. But the statement of, I too know the weight of my own stone. I know the weight of my burden. I know the weight of what I carry is more than just a sympathy. It is the foundational creed of a deep and rare form of human connection. Let us expand upon it further to say, I know the weight of my stone. I know the weight of my stone. Number one, it's an admission of vulnerability. To say this is to first confess that I know that I'm not free. I know that I'm also carrying something. It is to dismantle the facade of effortless perfection that so often dominates our social landscapes. Many of the time, everybody goes around as if all is well. But the reality is, you must admit to yourself that, Omo, I know I also carry something. I'm not pretending that I'm carrying a burden. I'm not pretending that I'm carrying a load. I know that I am carrying a burden. You have to accept that, and that is very important. It's a quiet rebellion against the tyranny of this statement that people say, I am fine. Whenever you ask them, how are you? How are you? I'm fine. That's the worst lie people always tell. In fact, let me say the best lie that human beings tell themselves. How are you doing now? I'm fine. How's everything? Fine. How is life? Fine. How are you? Fine. How's your family? We are fine. Everybody says fine, and that is a self-tyranny. However, in acknowledging our own stone, we lower the shield. We stop resisting the vulnerability. We step out from behind the curtain of curated existence, and we reveal the authentic, struggling self that is within. This vulnerability is not weakness. To accept that you carry a load is not a surrender. It is an invitation that is written in a language that both parties understand fluently, the language of struggle. When somebody asks you, how are you? You should just respond, I am carrying my burden with pride. I am carrying my stone with honor. I am carrying my problems like a badge of honor, that I am honorable, that I'm even carrying this burden. It's such an honor for me that this is the kind of stone that I carry. That should be your response, not this lie that we tell ourselves, I am fine. So in other words, the statement of I know the weight of my stone, it is an admission of vulnerability. Secondly, it's a declaration of our shared humanity. And this is the core of the power. It does not say, I know exactly how you feel, which is sometimes is an impossible and a very presumptuous claim. You can't know exactly how somebody feels. Instead, this statement says something far more profound. It says that you are not alone in the fundamental experience of carrying a weight. How are you? I am carrying my stone. It is to say that the way you are carrying your stone, I am also carrying my own stone too. Your stone may be carved from grief, while mine could be made from anxiety. Yours may be the weight of a dream that is deferred. Mine may be the weight of a responsibility I did not choose. They are different in shape, they are different in size, they are different in composition. But we are not comparing the rocks. We are just acknowledging the shared ache in our shoulders, the universal strain in our backs, the common ground of the mountain that we are all climbing. It is to say that beneath the surface details of our individual struggles, we are all united by the universal condition of burden bearing. That is how we have been designed. It's to say that I know you carry a stone, and I admit that I'm also carrying a stone. My stone may not be like yours, may not be the same shape, may not be the same size, may not be the same weight, but we must all admit that everybody is carrying something. Behind the smile that you see in the street, behind the I'm fine that somebody responds to you, behind this laughter and the happiness that people pretend to experience, behind the giggles and the laughter of somebody that is watching skits on the social media, including the people that are the content creators, behind all of that are the shared burdens that we all carry. We all carry our burdens in some ways. Number 3, to say I know the weight of my stone, it is the antidote to isolation. The greatest agony of any burden is often the loneliness that accompanies it. We look around and we see others who seem to move with grace and ease, and we feel like the only one struggling, as if we are the only one left behind, the only one failing to keep pace. That's what we think, but this isolation magnifies the weight until it becomes crushing. So to hear, "I too know the weight of my stone," shatters that isolation instantly. It's a light switched on in a dark room. It reveals that we were never alone there. We are surrounded by others that are sitting with their own stones in the darkness, just waiting for someone else to speak first. Allahu Akbar. It's like we are all carrying these burdens, but everybody is keeping quiet. But the moment that you accept, when somebody asks you, "How are you?" you say, "I am carrying my weight," or "I am carrying my stone." It's a way of, well, you like wake other people up to realize that, wait, oh, I'm not alone in this. And the moment you admit that, you just see that everybody has their own stories to tell. It creates a silent fellowship of the burdened, a community that is built not on shared joy alone, but also on shared resilience from the burdens that we all carry. Number 4, it's also an act of seeing and being seen. When you say this to someone, that "I am carrying my stones, I'm bearing my responsibilities with honor," you are performing 2 acts simultaneously. 1, you are seeing them, truly seeing past their smile and their "I'm okay" to the weight they are heroically shouldering, and in offering your own vulnerability in return, you allow yourself to be seen. You see others with their burdens for who they are, and you also see yourself for whom you are. This mutual recognition is one of the most validating experiences a human being can have. It says, "I see your struggle and does not diminish you in my eyes. It makes you to be real, and here is my reality in return. I see your struggle. Even though you carry these burdens, you are still very precious in my eyes. I see that you are carrying responsibilities, and it makes me to honor you some more. It makes me to respect you some more." That is how life is supposed to be. Don't look at somebody carrying burdens and you think that you should look down on them. You see somebody that is struggling to survive in life, it doesn't mean that you are better than them. It doesn't mean that they are lesser than you. It just means that they have chosen to carry their burdens with so much responsibility and with so much joy that you can never imagine. They may be suffering, but they are also smiling at the same time. That doesn't mean that you are alone also. They are also suffering just as you are also suffering. The way you feel pained, they are also feeling pained. The way you are broke, they are also broke. You may think you don't have much money in your pocket. Look at a very rich man, very wealthy man. Guess what? He has, for example, 300 million in his account. And to you, he's supposed to be a rich man. But I'm telling you, he is owing a debt of 900 million. Now, you don't have an idea that you are actually better than him. Even though you see in the outside, you see that he has a lot of money and is having a very nice ride. He's having a very beautiful car that he drives around, but you don't know the ugly disease that he's carrying around at the same time. In other words, you are not alone. No matter what you are, no matter who you are, there are so many other people around us that we carry burdens. And like I said, the shape of our burdens may not be the same, but the reality is that you are not alone. So when you now admit that "I know the weight of my own stone," that is the shortest and the most powerful recipe for human connection that is ever devised. It requires 1 part courage, that's to admit your own load. It requires 1 part empathy, to recognize the load in another person and create a whole universe of shared strength that we all carry our loads by ourselves. It is the unspoken mantra of every support group. It's the hidden text in a friend's comforting silence. It's the reason a piece of art about sorrow can make us feel so profoundly understood. When you read in a blog, when you read an article, when you read a post or when you watch a content created, you begin to see that what they are actually portraying will make you to understand yourself more, that you are not alone in this. There are many other people who carry the same things with you. If you were to convert your life into a skit, many people will laugh and many people will cry on your behalf. And when they laugh, they are not laughing at you, they are actually laughing at themselves, that they are not any better than you. And when they cry, they are not crying for you, they are actually crying for themselves, that their lives are even much worse than the one that you have. It is the quiet and powerful knowledge that allows us to look at a stranger in the eye and see not a stranger, but you see a fellow traveler on the same difficult but beautiful and burdensome road that is leading us all to our various destinations. Now, we began by acknowledging the burden. We then found its paradoxical value. Now, let us explore the illusions. Let us explore the fact that these burdens are not always the way we think they are. Are you ready now? Okay, let's go there. Number one, the illusion of the burden that we carry. The illusion of the monolithic burden we carry. We speak of the burden as if it's a single solid rock. Aha, I got you there. You were looking at this burden as just one solid, heavy rock. But I'm telling you, this is a trick of the mind. Upon closer inspection, the burden is not one thing, but a complex geology. Layers of sediment pressed together by time and by fear. Yes, you got it, by fear that you have. Take for example the layer of past regret, a weight that is composed of what if and if only and how I wish. This layer is particularly insidious because it's a weight that is made of memory and imagination. It's a phantom rock. It is not real. It has no substance in the present moment, yet you choose to carry it. Something has passed and you are still carrying it. How could you do this to yourself? Something that has passed and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't go back to the past to change it. Why will you still carry it as a burden on yourself? Something that has gone, it cannot be retrieved, you still carry it. You lost somebody, or you lost someone, or you left somebody, or somebody left you, and you are still carrying this burden as if it is fresh. Think about it. This what if this had not happened? What if, or if only my father was still alive? If only I had chosen a different path in life? If only I got that job the other time? You are still carrying that burden of something that happened like 20 years ago. This is phantom. It is not real. And then what of the layer of future anxiety? This is the weight of what might be. It's a rock we have not yet been given. It's a potential stone we are prematurely hoisting onto our own backs. We burden ourselves with tomorrow's hypothetical troubles today. Harbor, something that has not happened yet. We still carry the burden of that. We are still fantasizing and we are still afraid of what is coming, and it is becoming a burden on ourselves. It is not here yet. It's the burden that only exists tomorrow, if at all it exists. But we are beginning to trouble ourselves with it today. That's another layer of burden that we have. Then there's the layer of external expectations. This is the weight of the should. Okay, this thing should happen, or this thing is supposed to happen, or this thing is expected to happen. The script handed to us by society, the script handed to us by the family and the culture. We mistake this collective rubble for our own purpose, and we strap it on, often without questioning if it's ours to carry. This expectation we are talking about, you are just looking at what society wants you to do. Your family is expecting you to do, and your culture is expecting of you to carry those burdens. They are expecting you to carry them, but you are also offering your shoulders without questioning why should you carry it, and without asking if at all that's your own burden at all in the first place. This is a problem of mistook burden. Are you carrying somebody else's burden thinking it's your own? Or you have decided to carry the whole burden of the society when nobody sent you message? The first act of liberation is to sort the geology, to ask, is this my rock to carry? Is this my burden to carry? Is this a real stone in my hand now, or a ghost from a past that I cannot change, or a phantom from a future I cannot predict? To dissolve the monolithic burden into its component is to realize that much of the weight is optional. It is not compulsory. We can pull down the layers that are not of the present, layers that are not of our own true choosing, and layers that are not ours at all in the first place. So understand very well that so many of the burdens you are carrying are actually optional. They are illusional. They are not yours to carry. And sometimes they are not even here yet. You are already sweating under the weight of a burden that doesn't exist. Number 2 attitude to burden, and number 2 way to understand burden is you may wish to transform from burden to anchor. What does that mean? You begin to change the way you look at this burden. You begin to change your perception of the burden. We assume a burden is a thing to be carried upward. We think it's a hindrance to our ascent. But what if I tell you you may be wrong? What if we decide to view it differently? What if the weight was not meant to be carried, but it is meant to be used as an anchor? You know what I mean by that? Let me explain it further. You see, in a world of frantic distraction, in a world of superficial noise, in a world of endless choice, the very weight that seems to hold us down can become one thing, the same thing that grounds us. Our deepest struggles with grief, with purpose, with mortality are not distractions from life. They are the very core of life itself. They tether us to the depths of authentic human experience. While others are blown about by the winds of trend and triviality, your own burden, consciously held, can keep you steady in the storm. It connects you to the ocean floor while the surface waves rage ahead. In other words, maybe that thing you call your burden is the stone that you need to stabilize you. Maybe that thing you call a burden is the weight that is holding you down, that is not allowing the wind of life to blow you away. Maybe that thing you call a burden is just what you need now to let you achieve stability in your life. In other words, you may wish to stop looking at burden as a bad thing. Your responsibilities are the things that are giving you that weight that you have. You are not a lightweight anymore because you carry those weights. If you were a lightweight, the whole world will have blown you away like a weightless feather. The world will have tossed you up and down as a non-entity. But because of the weight that you have, that is anchoring you down and making you to have your strength to hold on, maybe that is the real purpose of your life. That's the real thing you are here to achieve. Understand that very well. If you are not a married man with your responsibility, what will you be doing now? If you are not a married woman with the weight and the burden of being a married woman, what will you be now? You will just be like a plaything in the hands of boys around. Everybody will be laughing at you and playing with you. Even the person that shouldn't even say salam alaikum to you will come around and be toasting you because you are a single woman, you are a single lady. All sort of rubbish will have been coming your way now. So better accept your husband even if he looks like a burden to you. It's the presence of that man in your life that has made people to still respond to your greetings. It's the presence of that same man in your life that made people to call you madam, that make people to give you the small respect that they still give you up till now. And conversely, the other way around, if not for the presence of your wife in your life, what will you be doing? You'll be going from one eatery to the other, tasting food from one restaurant to the other, no peace of mind, no good food to eat, no place to rest, and no respect from anyone, because everybody will look at you as a non-entity, no responsibility. A man that doesn't have a wife to feed, doesn't have children to feed, he doesn't have school fees to pay, he doesn't have house rents to pay, how useless your life will have been. Nobody will respect you and nobody will take you serious when you are talking. So that burden, that responsibility is actually what anchors you in life. Sometimes it is what gives definition to your life. It is what lends purpose to your life. So change your perception of this burden. Don't look at it as a problem. Look at it as something that has made your deepest struggles to have meaning. Number 3, the alchemy of shared weight. I'm talking about the perception of your burdens now. We touched upon community when we were talking earlier on, but let's go a little further now. Sharing a burden is not merely about making it lighter through division. It's about transmutation. You know, it's like transmutation. Yes, the stratification of your burdens into layers. When you confess your burden to another person, be it a friend or a loved one or a stranger, or even your own spouse if you are married, or through art, you perform an act of alchemy. You take the leaden, private, silent agony of your soul, and in the sharing, you turn it into gold. The gold of connection, the gold of empathy, the gold of understanding. The burden itself becomes the very material that forges the strongest bonds between people. The shared acknowledgement of struggle is the foundation of compassion. Your rock becomes the cornerstone of a bridge to another soul. Allahu Akbar. This same burden that you have is what connects you. Why don't you melt all these burdens together and begin to forge gold out of it? Allahu Akbar. So it is not just sharing with others alone, it is the material that forges the strongest bond between you and others. You know that I carry this burden, you carry this burden. We have fees to pay, we have rents to pay, we have to survive, and then it simply makes you to begin to connect and relate with others who have similar responsibilities. And before you know it, you start forming an association. Before you know it, you start forming a cooperative. Before you know it, you start floating a company together, so that we all can do this together. If we garner and gather our resources, we can come up with something that is unique and that's going to make carrying our burdens to be very easy for us. In other words, your rock becomes the cornerstone of a bridge to another soul. You bring your stone, I bring my stone. You bring your weight, I bring my weight. You bring your rock, I bring my rock. Before you know it, we have created a bridge. A bridge that once we combine them is much safer and much stronger and much easier to cross the rivers of life when you share this with others than if you want to go it all alone. You bring your wood, I bring my hammer. You bring your stones, I bring my rocks. You bring your nails, I bring my glue. We put everything together. You bring your raft, you bring your clothes, you bring your material, and by the time you know it, we are building a very solid canoe, a very strong boat with which we are going to cross the river together. You don't have to swim, you only need to bring whatever you have, and with others joining hands together, you are able to create something with which you cross the river. You go and you come back wholly and unscathed, and you achieve your purpose in life. And then number 4, the burden as the tool of a sculptor. Consider this. The burden is not just what we carry, it is what carves us. A sculptor does not create a form by adding clay, he creates by subtraction. He chips away at the raw, unformed marble to reveal the statue within. The burdens of life are not the chisel and the mallet. Every blow, Allahu Akbar, every blow of loss, every chip of disappointment, every scrape of failure is removing the superfluous material, is removing the ego, removing the illusion that we trivialize, and removing the trivial attachments to everything in life. So in other words, the burdens of life are the ones that now constitute the real actual chisel and mallet of life. We are not simply carrying the rock. The rock is carving us. The rock is shaping us. The weight and the frictions are slowly, sometimes painfully, they are revealing the form that was always hidden within the block. A form of resilience, a form of wisdom, a form of depth, and a form of authentic character that could never have been revealed in any other way. It is these burdens that actually carve us to the shape that we have. Don't you see a weightlifter? Because he carries this burden every time, can't you see the muscles of his arms have been developed? Can't you see the shape of his chest? It has really come out. By lifting that weight, he was actually carving the shape of his chest and actually carving the, what we call it, the six packs that form the abs that he has. If you are somebody that walks around a lot, if that's the shape of your body, you see that your legs will be stronger. You develop muscles at your thighs because you have to jump from time to time. If you are somebody that carries heavy weights on your head, you see that your head is stronger and your neck is straighter than that of other people. In other words, it is these burdens that actually shape us. It is what you do from time to time that reveal your wisdom. If you carry the burden of being a family man or woman, then you become wiser. You know how to manage life. You know how to manage responsibilities. You know how to manage a home as a woman. You know how to manage your children when it comes to child upbringing. You know how to handle them when they are troublesome. You know how to discipline them when they are recalcitrant. You know how to put them in place when they are getting stubborn. You know how to educate them when they are becoming ignorant. You know how to identify them, give them sense of identity when they seem to be losing their identity in life. You know how to refocus them when they are getting distracted. You become wiser. You become a professor of child upbringing even without earning a college degree. That is what carrying burdens do to us. Don't shy away from carrying your responsibilities. Most of the time, they make you to become stronger. They carve the greatness in you in such a way that you never could have imagined that you will become in life. So we do not just learn to bear our burdens. We learn to interrogate them, to see their composite nature. You look at your burden and you'll be like, yes, what exactly is this? And what am I going to learn from this? We learn to use them as anchor in a shallow world. We learn to use them as what gives us weight in a world that is poised to blow us away with the wind of trials. We learn to share them, and in doing so, we alchemize them into connection. You convert your responsibilities into connections with others. And we must finally surrender to the fact that they are the very tools that are sculpting us into something more profound, more resilient, much stronger, and more truly human than we could ever have been without them. The question now will shift from how do I put this down to what is this weight teaching me? What is it revealing in me? And who can I help with the strength it is forcing me to forge? Allahu Akbar. And this is the ultimate twist. The burden is not the obstacle to our life. It is the very instrument of its creation. It is this burden that actually designed our lives. It is not the obstacle to our lives. And let me begin to wind down like this. To look more critically into our discourse of today by looking into the natural world, and that's to seek wisdom from the oldest of teachers. Those are the things that we see around us, because the burdens of existence are not a human invention. We didn't create them by ourselves. They are the fundamental price of entry for all life. It is not unique to us as human beings. We all came to this world, and we came to this world to carry our burdens. In nature, We see these burdens not as philosophical abstractions, but as practical, integrated facts of being, handled with elegance that offers deep reflections in our lives. Let's take, for example, about the burdens of life, the collective burden, the hive and the herd. You know what I mean by the hive now? I'm talking about the bees, I'm talking about the ants. For many creatures, the solution to life's burden is collective integration, and we should learn from them. The individual's burden becomes a shared function, and in the surrendering of the self to the whole, the weight is distributed. In sacrificing the self for the community, the weight is distributed and made easier. Look at the colony of the ant, for instance. An individual ant carries a leaf fragment that dwarfs it, a crushing weight. Most time it is many times bigger than the ant itself. Does it despair? Does it complain? No, it doesn't. Because its burden is its purpose. It's not just that the burden has a purpose, the burden itself is the purpose of the ant itself. The leaf is not a personal obstacle, but a part of the colony's survival. The burden is born willingly because its meaning is located not in itself but in the community. Their strength is in their number and their single-minded purpose. The lesson we learn from the ant and the ant colony is that a burden shared with clear purpose ceases to be a personal weight and becomes a role. It becomes a contribution. It is transformed from I must to we are. Do you want me to repeat that again? It is transformed from I must do this to we are. We are this and we have achieved this. If you put that in family responsibilities, most couples go through problems because they are complaining that the burdens they carry is too heavy. The burden you carry will become too heavy for you if you are doing it for your own selfish reasons. But if you are carrying it on behalf of others, it becomes a contribution. It becomes a role that you play as the father, as the husband, as the man, and as the mother, as the wife, as the Amira of your own family. You will not complain that you spent money for the family as a woman. You will not complain that your money goes into the upkeep of the house. Rather, you are proud that your money has contributed to the greatness of your family, to the uprightness of your family, and to the upbringing of your children. It is not a matter of I must do this and that. It's a matter of we are collectively, cooperatively achieving this and that. Learn from the ant's colony. The ant doesn't complain because the ant knows that carrying this burden is for the interest of the whole community, and the ant is proud and happy to be part of those who contribute to that community. I also want you to look at the migrating herd of animals. The wild beasts, for example, when they are crossing a crocodile-infested rivers, this wild beast bears the collective burden of survival. I believe we all watch these animal documentaries on Night Joe Wild and the rest of them. In fact, if you have some of these Netflix and the rest of them, if you don't know what to use it for, I suggest you watch only animal documentaries from there. You are going to learn a lot. And then look at the burden of survival that these animals will carry. So this wild beast, for example, when they all go through the rivers and then they have to go through the rivers where there are so much crocodiles in these rivers, the individual struggle, the frantic swimming, the risk of death is part of a grand ancient migration that's essential for the survival of the species. The burden of the journey is immense, but it is undertaken as a collective. The strength of the many protects the one, and the sacrifice of the one tragically may ensure the progress of the many. Allahu Akbar. And that means the success of the many depends on one single wild beast that may slow down and lure the crocodiles away, or that may slow down and make itself a bait to the crocodiles, so that the community, the rest, may escape and it later find its way to follow them. And sometimes the whole community, this is the thing now, the whole herd of the crocodiles, if they all stay back and the wild beasts are coming, you will get to see that the wild beasts are strong enough to crush all of them if they can only unite to face their collective enemies. And many of us, including me, we get disappointed when we see the wild beasts or the very big buffaloes, when we see them being oppressed by a few lions. Then you'd be like, oh, why are you all running away now? The buffaloes, they may run into hundreds, and then maybe 3 or 4 lions will be pursuing them. What kind of rubbish is that? Why don't they all turn around and face these lions? I've seen that in some of these documentaries where these wild beasts and these animals, or where these buffaloes, they will just turn around and they will crush the lions. I've seen 1 or 2 occasions like that, and where they give these lions a run of their lives. Is that not how life is supposed to be? We are not animals, for God's sake. Even if these animals don't know that they should face their enemies together, we are not animals now. Why don't we all join hands together and fight the wild animals that are tormenting our lives? What are these wild animals? Poverty is one of them. And who are these wild animals? But don't say I told you. The wild animals in our midst may be the politicians that we are so much afraid of. And all of us as animals will refuse to join hands together and give the lions that are tormenting our lives the beatings of their lives. Well, I hope, I'm even thinking that you don't understand what I'm saying. Let's just assume that you don't understand what I'm saying. The lesson we learn from this is that some burdens are so vast that they can only be faced as a collective. The individual finds courage and purpose not by escaping the burden, but by moving with the herd, by trusting in the shared instinct for survival. If people were to gather together, they can fight the poverty in their midst. If people were to gather their strength together, they can fight the unemployment in their midst. If people were to gather together and not behave like animals, behave like sensible human beings, we can give the drug peddlers, we can beat the drug barons in our midst, we can give them a beating of their lives, so that we can stop these drug addictions that are bedeviling our societies and that are eroding the moralities in our midst and that are destroying the future of the young generations amongst us. Get it? That's a lesson we learn about burdens from the lives of the animals. But that's not all. Let me quickly mention this to you before you get bored. Look at the shell and the web, the individual burden. Let's even say you want to face your own burden by yourself. You will learn from nature that other creatures model how the burden can be incorporated into the very structure of the self. What do I mean by this? Take a look at the snail with the shell. The snail shell is its greatest burden, a heavy, cumbersome home that must carry everywhere it goes. It slows down its progress. Yet, this burden is also its salvation. It is its protection from predators and the elements. When the sun is too harsh, the snail will withdraw into the shell. When the snail is scared, it will withdraw into its shell, because the shell gives it the protection from elements and from predators all the same. It can be very heavy, it may weigh it down, but the snail does not lament the weight, because the snail is the weight. The burden and the being are inseparable. The snail is the shell and the shell is the snail. What lesson do we learn from this? Our deepest burdens, our history, our vulnerabilities, our responsibilities can become the very structures that define and protect us. We are not carrying them, we are living within them. They are not separate from us. They are our home. They are who we are. So you are the snail and you are the shell. What happens if the snail is removed from the shell? The shell becomes empty and hollow and lifeless. And what happens if the shell is removed from the snail? The snail will become naked. It becomes vulnerable. It will dry up and it will die. So embrace your shell, brothers and sisters. They are not different from you. And that's what gives you life. And that's what makes life to be interesting for you. Then look at another example from nature, the spider and its web. The spider bears the burden of the need to eat. Its solution is to expend immense energy to laboriously spin a complex web from its own essence. The web is a manifestation of its burden. It's an externalization of its need. It's a delicate, fragile structure that requires constant maintenance and is easily destroyed because it is very delicate. Yet, the spider does not spin it once and despair if it fails. It spins it again and again and again. What lesson do we learn from this? Our burdens can be met with active creative engagement. We can spin our anxieties, our needs, our struggles into a purposeful structure, into a project, a relationship, a work of art. The effort is relentless and the result is fragile, but it is the very act of spinning that gives purpose to the struggle. You have to keep spinning and spinning and spinning. The breeze may blow it off. It may look fragile, but that thing you have just spun now is the same protection you have, and that is the only snare you have to attract the prey that you are going to eat. If you stop spinning, you are going to starve to death. If you are too lazy to spin, you are not going to catch any prey, and hunger would befall you. So you don't give up spinning. It's a responsibility. Sometimes it may be a chore. Sometimes your burden may just be your toil every day. Sometimes your burden may be your activities, the thing you must do on a daily basis. And sometimes you just have to show up even when you don't feel like. You have to deliver even when you are weak. You have to perform even when you want to be lazy. You have to stand up even when you want to sit down. You have to rise up even when you want to sleep. You have to be there even when you feel like being absent. You have to be present even when you feel like going on holiday. You have to keep your duty. A man can never be retired from being a man. To be a man is not a day's job, but it's not even a job that you retire from. To be a mother, you can't retire. You'll be a mother forever. Even when your children are big and old and they become parents on their own, you are still a mother. In fact, that's why they call you grandmother. And if you live long enough, they'll call you great-grandmother. That mother can never be removed from you. Even when you die, they'll say our mother is dead. So you have to be a mother forever. And you should be ready to accept everything that comes alongside of being a mother. You are a mother with honor. You are a mother with purpose. Wear it like a badge of honor. Wear it like a crown on your head. You are a mother. You are a queen. And we should start calling you the queen mother of the family. Let me give you some other examples from nature for you to know that you shouldn't give up on this burden that you carry. Look at that of the tree and the seasons. Nature teaches us about the rhythm and acceptance of our burdens. Look at the deciduous tree. A tree in autumn bears the burden of impending winter. Its response is not to fight but to surrender. It lets go. The tree allows its most vibrant achievement, that is the leaves. The tree has to allow them to fall. The tree stands bare and vulnerable. But it is not for nothing. The tree has to do that in order to conserve its energy, in order to accept the burden of the cold and the silence of the winter. This is not defeat. It's a strategic retreat, a deep wisdom. The tree will have to let go. The leaves give a lot of identity and beauty to the tree. But there will come a part of the season where the tree will have to painfully let go of these leaves. The leaves will be falling off one after the other, many in batches, and they fall off the tree. The tree will look very empty. The tree may look bare. The tree may look naked. But this is strategy for the season. This is not a defeat. But wait, it is for the tree to conserve its energy in order to survive that season. Do you want me to explain this further? It's a way of survival for that tree so that it can conserve the energy to survive that season. You cannot hold on to those leaves if you truly want to survive. And there's a lot of lesson that we learn from this. If we bring it into the family, sometimes you have to let go of your children. Let them go to school. Let them go to marry. That is what you need for this time. And when you become an empty nester, you have not failed. You have succeeded. You are not dead. You have survived. You are not ended. You have reprocreated and you have reprogressed. And you have reprojected yourself into the future, even after you eventually die. These children that you have trained, that you have sacrificed for, that you have let go, they are the ones that will constitute the Sadaqah Jariyah, and they continue to exist when you are no longer physically here. Human beings have two options to exist perpetually. Number one, we either live forever without dying at all, which is not possible, or number two, we reproduce ourselves by virtue of reprocreation. Allah has given us the gift of reprocreation because He has not given us the gift of khuldu. Khuldu is to live forever, physically. But Allah has given us the gift of reprocreation so that we can reproduce ourselves, reproduce our genes, reproduce our cells, and reproduce other human beings that are from us, like us, and from us. And then we put in them, we let go of them, we put education and tarbiyah in them so that they can continue to survive even when we are not here. They continue the goodness we instilled in them. They continue the humanity that we instilled in them. And they continue the goodness to progress humanity. They continue it even after we have withered and died. They continue to survive. But let us say we are still alive. There's a season for carrying weight, and there's a season for shedding the weight. The burden of winter makes the bloom of spring to become possible. We too will have cycles. To accept a period of barrenness, of retreat and conservation is not failure. It's a necessary part of the cycle of growth. Our burdens can become the impost and the compost for our future flourishing. When you let go and you sacrifice for your children now, don't you know that at your old age, when you cannot do anything again, these are the ones you have put forth to take care of you at your old age? Never succumb to those who say they don't have their children, or they do not bring up their children for their future. No, it is wrong as far as Islam is concerned. The Quran says about old age that وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدَ إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Allah has decreed that you worship none but Him, and you must be good and kind to your parents. إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبَرَ. When your parents reach the old age with you, أَحَدُهُمَا, either one of them, أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا, or both of them, and then Quran goes ahead to tell you how you should treat them. And the Quran says, وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. You should speak kind words to them. Speak kind words to them and treat them with kindness. In other words, Allah has established the decree that after worshipping Allah and obedience to Allah, the next thing you can do for Allah to be pleased with you is to be good and kind towards your parents. It's a decree in Islam, and you cannot wish it away. But is it not the children that you train well that will take care of you? Is it not the children that you give love and affection to that will come in future and give you the same love and affection? Is it not the children you teach about the decree of Allah that will grow up to give you the practical experiences that you need to derive from the lessons you have taught them about life? Think about it now. Think about it. The burdens we carry sometimes are for our own advantage, not only now but in later time, and not only now, even in the hereafter. The burdens we carry here will constitute the light weight that we have in the hereafter. Now let us reflect now, so that you don't get bored by my long explanations. In reflection, the natural world does not seek to be free of its burdens. It has integrated them into the very logic of existence, and that's what we should do too. The burden is the shell, the web, the migration, the hibernation. It shows us that the answer is not to ask, how do I pull this burden down? But the answer is to ask, how can I integrate it into my structure like the snail? Can I spin it into something purposeful like the spider? Can I share its weight as my role in a collective like the ant? Can I accept its season and know that even this season will pass like the tree? Our human consciousness allows us to perceive the weight, to dread it, and to curse it, to complain and to lament, but also grants us the unique ability to choose how we relate to these burdens. We can learn from the ant's purpose. We can learn from the snail's integration. We can learn from the spider's creativity. We can also learn from the tree's patience to go through one season in anticipation of another season. You carry your burden. It can be heavy now. It will be light later. You carry your burden, but you carry it to where there is no other means of survival apart from the burden you have been carrying. A person that is carrying an umbrella, it may look like a burden. He will not appreciate this burden until when rain starts. Everybody is drenched. He is the only one with that umbrella to keep moving and to keep moving and to keep moving. Only very intelligent people understand these things I've been saying, and I trust very well that you are all brilliant and intelligent people, and you have been able to imbibe the wisdom from our discussion of today. I do hope you have learned one thing or the other about the burdens we carry. I hope you have also learned how to carry this burden. Sometimes you carry it with style. Bearing, enduring, and transforming our lives and becoming the part of the process to our progress. May Allah make it easy for us. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Acquire Abdul Fattah Adiyemi's soul-lifting handmade masterpieces and experience the divine beauty of Islamic artistry. Book counseling and therapy sessions to access a safe space to heal and thrive. Join the community. Transform your life. Edit your universe.